KN Racing's been up and running for about 15 years now. The car we're building for Workshop Wars is basically going to take me back to when I was a kid again. We're building an XY GT replica in the same colour as what mine was back in the day. The only difference with this is it's going to have a pretty serious engine in it with a serious gearbox and differential. Apart from that, it's going to resemble a genuine car, even down to when you look at the engine, it's all going to be painted up in the original colours and have all the dots and spots and tags and labels and all of that. So when it's sitting there stationary, you wouldn't think anything of it, but when you see it going, you'll think different of the car. My philosophy is, if you're going to do something, do it right the first time.
Hey Sash, how you going?
Good mate, how are you?
Good bud, got your parts for you.
Everything off the list in there?
Everything is here. That's the build.
That's the one, mate.
And how long?
8 weeks.
8 weeks?
Yeah.
Got a fair bit to get through.
The motor is a 440 cubic inch Ford motor. Windsor bottom end, which is the way you have to go when you run an aftermarket block with the Cleveland style cylinder heads. The fuel line we're installing here now is a 1/2 inch fuel line as opposed to a 3/8 fuel line, which is standard on a GT Falcon. Reason for that is we're going to be making sort of somewhere in the range of 300 to 350 horsepower more than a standard GT does. So we definitely need extra fuel.
The old man was really into cars. He always owned or bought cars and put mag wheels on them and done a bit of exhaust system for them. So that's where we started to appreciate cars. The only car I remember was a HR that he had, that he really liked and looked after. And then the other car was a GTS, a yellow Monaro.
Here we're just going to put all the grease nipples in to the ball joint, to these control arm bushes. We put the grease nipples in, it's all greased up. It's got the riveted as per factory ball joint in there. And we're just going to go ahead and install this. This is the reason why we put all this stuff in earlier, because once you put the lower control arm in and the stub axle, it becomes difficult to do some of that.
Meeting Sash was through a friend down the road here that has a workshop as well, and just happened to drop in one day and had a talk with Sash and just headed off from there.
My father was always into cars. He had an XB Fairmont Coupe, lovely brand new Falcon, and Ford was the way I was always going to go, I suppose, from that point on. The process to building one of these cars is quite simple. Either the client will drive in with an old beat-up XY, XW Falcon or any other car, or we source the car and basically control the whole build from start to finish. We manage the whole deal. They don't have to have the headache of going from one guy to the next guy backwards and forwards, trying to do, we call it owner-builder. They just have to pay the bill and pick it up when it's finished and drive off into the sunset. We paid $8,000 for my car back in the day. I've spent quite a few dollars on it over the years. You can't really sit there counting every cent that you threw at it over the years. It'd be like counting how much petrol you've put in the car over the years. That's just sort of how it goes. That car there, I'd probably get, I'd say $100,000 for it today. I did have an offer some years ago after we drove the car across to Perth and back. A gentleman from Perth called me up. I didn't want to sell it because it's my first car. It's just here to stay, sort of thing. I'll get my special clip in the front here. So the speedo cable runs through here and the brake line runs through there. When you're restoring a car and you want everything original on there, that there is pretty crucial in my eyes to have that in there, because that hole is there for a reason. It's for that clip, and that clip has to be found and be put in there. You know what that one there is? That there is where the breather hose off the diff goes into the chassis cavity there, but on a factory V8 car, it goes here. It comes off the diff, goes that way and goes into there to get away from the exhaust pipe over
Is that for the clip here?
That's for the clip. Most of these cars were built in Broadmeadows in Victoria, but some of them were, well, a fair few of them were built in Queensland also. This one here, we believe, is one of the Queensland cars. And when you look closely around the engine bay, the way it's constructed, some of the spot welding and just in general the appearance of it, you can tell a Queensland car from a Victorian car.
Obviously the Victorian car was better.
Victoria, Queensland, forget all that. The New South Wales one will be the pinnacle, let's call it that. My father was a house painter. I actually, when I left school, I worked with him in the family business for a few years. I remember seeing one of these flashy looking Falcons in the day, which I then found out was a GT Falcon, and they did exist, and we bought my replica back then. I just started mucking around with these cars at home as a bit of a hobby at first, and before I knew it, there was one guy, two guys, three guys coming through wanting me to help them with this, that and the other on these cars, because I sort of was pretty good with them. It became too much work to be just doing it in the driveway at home, and we got into a shop, and here we are. That's in case we put an elephant in the back of the car and the disc goes up far enough to hit that.
Miles away they are, these rubbers.
The purpose for the client is to have a perfectly built car, to be better than what it was when it was new, better attention to detail with the assembling of the car, more horsepower, more reliable horsepower, just a tidier, stronger package altogether. Plan for today is to basically get just about everything we have here that's powder coated and fit it to the underside of the car. All these little plates and plugs and odds and ends and sway bars, and we'll get the rear springs in. These are brand new 5-leaf. The HOs came out with 6-leaf, but these are actually brand new construction, and they work better than the original 6-leaf from nearly 50 years ago. But we have put the original markings on there just so they look like the real deal. And there's also a part number that we've put on there. They have kids building these cars. I am married, wife Fenella, 2 kids, Sophia and Alex. We started go-kart racing with Alex about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and he's been going really well. He's done well on the big stage, Australian Karting Championship. He's won around there. He's been runner-up a couple of times. He's won some club championships, broken various lap records around Sydney and around the country. Going really well. Most memorable would have to be the one and only Phase 4 GTHO that we restored here. There's also been a handful of Phase 3 GTHOs. There's been a couple of Phase 2 GTHOs, and there's also been a Phase 1 GTHO, so they're all very special cars. 300 XY GTHOs were built back in '71. As for how many are still in existence, I don't know. I mean, I've had about a dozen of them come through my place over the years for restoration and various other work. A genuine GT Falcon will have a few extra holes and threads in the chassis in various places that are unique to that model car. You know, some of these cars have been smashed and rebodied, and then sometimes people are trying to sell them off as the real deal. This is obviously a replica, we're not hiding that. Ford Muscle Parts is probably the biggest supplier in the country of genuine and aftermarket parts. These are genuine style exhaust hangers. They hold the mufflers up, and then there's another set further back that support the tailpipes. Up under here there's also some threads that are in the chassis itself where these exhaust hangers screw into, and that's also unique to a GT or a HO. These brackets here, there's a plate that's welded to the chassis from the factory, and these brackets bolt straight into it. That's for the rear sway bar, which was only ever fitted to a GTHO. So if you're looking at a GTHO, or you think it's a GTHO, it should at least, as a minimum, have this plate that's welded to the chassis here. The Phase 3 is still available to people who want to part with the right amount of money. There also is a one-off XA GTHO, which we had the pleasure of restoring here. The production of the XA GTHO got canned. Basically, the government stepped in and said to stop doing what they're doing, otherwise they won't buy any fleet cars off them anymore. and the three companies pulled the pin on their big projects, and one of them was the XA GTHO. They had already started production, and one of them had rolled off the production line and did manage to get registered. The Phase 4, unfortunately, there's only the one, and I don't think too many people are going to get to own that one. The price of the GTHO over the years has gone up and down. You know, at one stage they were talking they were close to $1 million, then at one stage they were 300,000. I think $500,000 is probably a reasonable number for one of those.